right now would be having our first panel session. All my team to come and set us up as we start to introduce some of our interesting speakers to go over some of the interesting things that we have. We're starting with a discussion basically of how design. I remember a couple of weeks back, they were dragging my ex-company number and how their websites, something. And then I went to go and fight because I hate designers. I didn't care about it, but I just went to fight designers. But we kind of want to discuss how design basically affects and impacts reputation, affects how people receive a brand, and even how it affects growth generally. Because one of my biggest strategies as a growth marketer generally is it's always cheaper when you allow your customers come to you than to go to your customers. And it's a law that I totally operate by everywhere, every time, that has proven to work over the years. And the biggest attraction, right? One way that you can control the narrative as a brand is with your presentation, is with your identity, basically. And identity is hugely based on a lot of things, right? We know identity is not just a logo, but our identity as a brand and is fully based on, how you are able to interpret what you make, how you make people feel. And this is how you sort of, attract people to the brand. They stop and they look, and it's cheaper to acquire that way, right? That's a working principle, and it's sort of part of the discussions that we'll be having now. But here, so we are going to be calling on our speakers. Let's first put a round of applause again for Jordan as he comes back to the stage that he just left. Secondly, let's clap again, this time for Joseph, our creative director. He has been hiding, but this is what it looks like. Sure, you remove your cap, let them see you very well. Let's also clap for Obasha, the convener of Design is Not Dead, as he comes on stage. Finally, please, let's make this clap the loudest again, because of my salary. Please. Loudest. Let's clap for my CEO. It's not loud enough now. Please, guys. Please. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I'll be handing over to Jordan and the rest of the team.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause again for the very wonderful people here. So my very, very first question, which is a follow-up from my short rant, and is to you, Mr. Femi. And so, considering how much effort, time, and money has been put into the identity and the work for rank, the very first question is, what convinced you that design was worth spending this amount of money, amount of time, amount of effort, and how do you justify this both to maybe investors, or how do you justify it to other stakeholders that may or may not be very versed in what design really is and its impact?
Thank you, everyone, for coming to spend your evening with us at Rank. We appreciate you. Can you celebrate yourself? And also, Jordan, I'm a big fan. And one thing I would want to say about Jordan and the team is, I'm a designer myself. Design fed me for years. Worked on Tony Lulu Foundation Identity with Temikola Ole Owando, right? And looking at that, often when I talk to our designers, I'll tell them, I can't put a price to your work. You can't put a price to it. So, Jordan, fantastic work. You're grooming contemporary modern designers. that are not carried away with the hype. So, well done. Obasha is my guy, and he knows what I'm saying. We both studied geophysics together, the same department. And if you know what that means, is insane. So, to the question, I think the foundation is around the fact that I'm a designer myself. I've been designing for years. So, in reality, when we're going to think about the rank identity, right? Rank has actually been around for like 4 or 5 years prior to the rebrand, right? And one thing that was important to us then was to have clarity. That was the first thing. Because in reality, you can bring a designer into chaos. So you make his life very difficult, right? So for me, for long, we were just focused on building the business, and we're not so much putting ourselves out there. We just wanted to be sure we're ready. And when we're ready, we were clear that we want to go all out. But for me, the first thing is, who is going to tell the story? And scouting everywhere. I actually spoke to Obasha. This guy, he dragged me. But then it was good talking to Obasha. I learned a lot from him. Now, eventually, I spoke to Joseph. And the day I called Joseph, I was shocked he picked my call. Because designers, I respect you, but you guys you're big. You are very big. So eventually, I had the chat with Joseph. And for me, when I was going to talk to him, I was clear about the story as well, that I'm not bringing you into another fintech that we're selling airtime. No. And he can talk about it, right? Because in reality, we've been building for some time, and deliberately, identity is very important to everything we want to do. We don't want to sound like any other startup. We don't want to feel like any other startup. And for us to do that, it has to come from me. It has to be deliberate. That means when I'm clear, I have to be able to convince someone like Joseph, right? So first is talking to Joseph, being able to sell the vision to him. Joseph is extremely humble. He's too humble. Let's clap for him. Because by the time I spoke to him, and it was more like, okay, how do we move forward with this, right? And the first thing is, after I've spoken to him and we have the clarity, that was the first thing, and sharing the vision, right? The next part is being able to now quantify, I brought this guy to this system. How do I make sure that his work flourishes? Because a lot of founders actually kill designers. Often, a lot of designers, they don't want to work with founders. And the reason is simple. I work on a lot of direction, assets, and at the end of the day, it's buried. See, we need to dig up the graves of designs that never see the... We need to dig it. And it's very painful for a creative, because for me, I know what it means. So, when Joseph was coming on board, the first thing is, I need to manage stakeholders, because at Rank, we have a culture of accountability, right? Joseph can talk about it. Okay, I'll give you an instance. We don't just spend. Often, sometimes I have to use my money to fund it, because I want to achieve my results. So, first is being able to fund and get the minimum viable product. Then, the next thing is I need to convince the other stakeholders. Now, the other stakeholders are more like the business guys. And in reality, when we did that, and Joseph really helped me, because I'll tell him, guy, this is how we need to manage it. This is how you talk to this person. This is the person you need to get close to. You need to talk. So, after we've done that, when the stakeholders started seeing the output, they're not thinking about the spend again. They bought into it. And really, for me, as a founder, I created a culture where design is at the center of everything. I own it. I'm like, I tell the team something. Don't put out anything that I'm not proud to put my name on. And everybody's clear that you can't put out any design. Joseph has to approve it. So we're so keen about the fact that the way we show up is very important, right? Such that over time, we now have the business team, such that they now care about design so much. I'll give you an instance. Our head of operations, we worked on, do you remember that company profile we worked on? It was the head of operations that was saying, this does not look like us. So by default, we've been able to build a culture where everybody actually care about design, like by default. So in a way, it's not about the spend alone, because you can't really put a price to creative. Mine is around the fact that you're able to protect the designer, you're able to bring their work out, you're actually able to create a culture that helps the company thrive when it comes to design, basically.
All right, thank you so much. Please put your hands together for him. Okay, so my next question is for Joseph. And it's mostly around the fact that we've had this conversation internally many times where to do one design, like to do branding for a company is relatively easy in terms of like you can think about it, execute it, but like there's always a problem,
which is what as you rank after to solve by really entertaining like continuity, where the manager out there guys are 2 weeks later they're like, I mean I can't believe what this level was. I'll just figure out a place to live because like the external designer really ethical or stakeholders do not find very enough to continue spending on it. So how do you manage that when you send the F to right kind like for the jobs to work on first deployed project? Thank you for that. I've thought about it. Thank you for the question. I would say that with the eye that I'm listening today, if you work with us over, please hold you. So yeah, I think continuity in terms of quality of design has always been a conversation. You see a lot of brands pull out like steps, come up with a lot of like identity, but weeks after, it's like back to people. They're like, after you spend this a lot of money, and just afterwards, it's back to square one. And not just that, I think that a lot of brands, especially international brands, tend to stick to the so-called design system. It's like, oh, we define the position, typography, and for the next 4 years, it's that same template like brands doing like forever. And to me, I'm like, this like there needs to be an evolving of the brand, which is why I think the first solution to that problem is the quality like of designers, which specifically happy about that there's like a new wave of designers coming out of like Nigeria. We used to like do great work. We used to put in the time. But I think that if we don't see designers across board, they always reach that problem of sustenance. That's what like design identity. And also, this is like great reward for designers. I think that the dream is getting bigger than Nigerian companies, to be honest. So if I'm putting so much effort into like building myself, it's like getting a solid career. The goal is probably like scale out the country, right? So there needs to be like a proper reward for me to know that I'm joining this company, it makes sense for myself, and I'm going to like sustain whatever it is that I'm doing for college. So yeah, I'll say that's my so like I answer the question.
Thank you so much. Angela, you've worked, my knowledge, two topics that are really like public identity. One of them we didn't do the original brand identity. So you were more or less sustain an identity that expanding on what already we did. So my question to you is, how do you measure if this is an opportunity for us to do a very big rebrand, or this is an opportunity for us to go gradually into that? And then people will split more backstory. So when you get into a new company, there's always a space of that, achieve a lot of things, like I should have, I work in the past. But there's one that you have to deliver to me, like There are also more services to the company because they added new designers. So how do you manage this one requires a new identity and respect for purely back end, and then this one has to go tomorrow morning because you use foreign identity. So how do you balance that? How do you decide what requires large scale expansion and what requires switch to forward and so forth?
All right. I'm my town, Harry Wagon, on the environment. The one I didn't categorize is better than this thing see. I wasn't able to respond. And what I did was expand what we reported out. Using stock as an example, stock was new product. Yeah, we pushed stocks to the market. I did not create like a number of dollars. Well, the system, like I did what we already had. I think that the major problem was here, how do we stick within the ground line? Yeah, but we're not going to get a new logo for stock or get a different illustrations are all with the bills. Okay, this was the design system. How do we expand? Because, okay, we did our research and created versions of the illustrations in the sense that we had. Because let's just timeline, like everyone knows that right now, like you to tell you spend all these new products. So that's the defining point is becoming back on that. So when I need out of the stock of the product, I identify that ready to expand this done. Usually the disaster and it around them if I may read the past. So I think the major part of students were it's the brand deadlines, making sure how do you expand this you want to try a new layout. You want to add new colors to them. You want to go different fitted direction. And then what do the form looks first? What if I was talking about we can expand this a bit. That's the big day I actually buy. Yeah. That's thank you so much. So I mean I have this question and so on to the full forgive me, I people that not that I wanted to look. Well I'm interested in how you evaluate impact. I think you answered it a little bit, but when you consider everything else as a kind of numeric value, if you do a campaign and get $100 and you get customers that they put it $200, you don't need sort of like succeeded in that campaign. But we think that are so much a time making. How do you, because I know that right after that campaign that we've not like spend more money or spend more time on it. How do you can just this impact and say yes, it's what I can it is. How do you know for sure that this is literally there in a way that is somewhat to be presented to the bottom line and can present it to the investor and say the details as well this will be guiding. Sure. I'll start with the last one, please, the investor. Also, one quick thing about satellite. The first thing is the investors won't be getting run on. But the interesting thing about our argument is the fact that when we started the process, it was actually our investors that were reaching out to us. That, guys, what are you doing this for? Do you understand? For instance, I remember an A-class investor in Africa that reached out to me. I was like, how much did you guys spend on your rebrand? And when I told him the amount, and when I told him the fact that we're able to build this internally, it was like, I'll need to fire the agency they were using. Because the agency they were using, they spent about 7x. Yes. 7x of that. Now, just as we were there that way, and the investor was now like, do you guys have an agency in-house that can take over the projects? And I was like, no, I'm protecting my guys at all costs. So, that's more like a basic example that I don't even need to convince the investors. And if there's only for me to convince the investor, the stakeholders internally, it's very, design is beautiful. Taste is different. You're not like every other person. So in a way, that was the first thing. We had a couple of investors reaching out to us and to a good extent,
how do we do this, right? Now, the other part is, it's not just about the existing national setup. Our rebrand actually got us winning ideas. For instance, when you put out that tweet, you don't know where you who was around? Okay, my answer was around. Like, few days after I put out the tweet, we got like maybe like additional 5 minutes. One of them is about $27 billion fund. And it was more like, okay, tell us, imagine you're doing a pitch. I was there for the pitch. And what they were asking about is like identity. I was like, okay, I'm here for business purposes, right? So, founders really need to pay more attention to the art of design, right? Now, the other part is, that's more like the external investors. Also, we have a lot of HNIs that work with us. And because of this free ride, right? You don't know the impact on how much it has increased the number of customers, the number of HNIs that are reaching out to us because of it. So, being able to put it quantitatively, that was not my mindset when we were starting out. Now, we have a level of tariff, right? There are two parts to the business. It's either you're a revenue driver or a revenue enabler. Also, when people get carried away that everybody needs to drive revenue, needs to carry revenue. No, right? Often there are things that are more like revenue drivers, revenue enabler. Short term, they're not, you can't really quantify the impact. But long term, if you do the crowd, it's most enormous impact. And you guys are very important. What brand identity design is supposed to be a relative to the for us, but to a good extent. Design is more than the revenue driver for us. Needed. Not thank you so much. I don't really put out so much there, but then what we're saying is we quantify design as a revenue enabler, but at the end of the day, design became more like a revenue driver for us from network. So I think does that answer the question?
By the way, that tweet was replied by the editor at large of the Fintech. Fintech is the largest education platform globally, and came to at large. So, like, focus to US out for focus studio that they Amazon. So, like, mentally, I can understand that the work that was done was at the level of global. That brings me to question that as of today, DNA is the platform, global platform for recognizing design and creativity. No Nigerian company has done it DNA yet. And it's actually saying that Nigeria is not Grammy. And so, my question is, why do you think that is? And what do you think can be done to solve that? And then, as a caveat, I mean, the Nigerian company recently won, but the work was done by a German company, so I don't really consider it in Nigeria. Yeah, it's for German capacity. Yeah, also Fintech. And so that's the question to you.
That's a good question. So, I mean, that's a lot of awards that I've seen that's been given to Nigerian companies for people. There's always been from a point of view of doing Africans and everything. It's almost like every time you see an award and they see that you're from Nigeria or like Lagos, there's an expectation that everything you do is like your culture. So you are putting out work, you are like submitting stuff that is not looking Afrocentric, it's not looking, I mean, it's almost like the not was like in that like global thing. So I can't say that I know like the solution to the problem, but I believe that as design grows in the country, we will see a lot more that happening. For instance, if you look at Brazilian design, if you look at next design culture, there's really a lot of exports in terms of the style, the work that's been done. I believe very strongly in the work that a lot of people are doing. There's something that I call like the Nigerian visual language, and I think that we are already exporting it. And a lot of information come for that. But I personally, I don't think that the world needs to look African, like it needs to be Afrocentric to it. We should make competition. Like at what point do we start becoming global players? At what point do we start doing good work that can stand toe to toe with the motto? I still believe that it doesn't need to be African like that for it to consider great. And I think that's what they actually do.
My name is Tarate. I am a product designer and I love to do brand design as well. I work with I work. So, so I have a question for Joseph. My question is, how did you? I feel like
I was saying, but how did you take one to rank? Like I know it's a lot of thinking and all that. But how to know? I can't place it in my head maybe because I don't like Indians. But I want to understand what like maybe was it referencing what was the thing that you said? Because I put all of this in play, that's how I was able to transition from that to this. That's
Like I mean, I've seen just a little bit of it, so I feel like I'm very robust in terms of how I approach the work. But I think the core approach to it is actually looking at the core of what EL is. I feel like Grant had lost that core of people like humanity, human connection. I felt like it was to leverage the existing story and translate this all and use that the art day. So like that's like so many of it. And during my presentation, I'm doing my own in-depth training of the thoughts and the outcome of this process.
of course with art. That's absolutely
also there is one more person. This guy in my
Yes, you can everybody. Thank you so much for this presentation. Very sure we're actually I'm the very happy. So I want to ask CEO that our delegation back. So I have a running story right for if your answer will confirm it, sorry. So our delegation back like when you said oh Charles to do this thing, was it given like the record don't check now like because clearly extend that chance. So our delegation like to like to go take over this thing and just fun. Good.
Yeah. So I would say that I was stubborn, honestly. I did not hear anything that Femi was saying, you are the decision saying what I'm supposed to do. I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do. And if he wants to do work, he has to do that needs to be done. But Femi was like very, very liberal in terms of allowing me to do the work. I guess that there was that trust based on conversations. And I think this is why I started to important. So it's not like I just couldn't sit there designing the work. We essentially like created something together. And the presentation happened. We were very clear on the goals. And the execution was just a stream of the strategy that we put in an icon. So that's why I think that the work was quite seamless.
Thank you.
So the first thing, the fact that I'm a designer, I went to emphasize on this journey to know that like your best is great. So that was the first thing. That's it. Mine used to have where zero application and when I shared vision in the raw taste. And often at times we don't agree with that. And that's a privilege to produce what we just the privilege us. You know, what's those? You're doing us people, chance and them. So in a way, you know that like I had a thread. They sure don't think how to work, right? Even though emotions comes in some of that, as people us. But one thing I respect for our person, you gotta Joseph. And for designers is the fact that at the point that the designer each other, people should not just say you should have an opinion. You should just be saying this. No. you're not working with a crazy person, right? So the fact that Joseph has an opinion is independent, and I don't think I'm saying this. Joseph is very good in communication. I think he knows how to tell his story. So the way we work primarily is I share the vision with you. I don't interface with business at all, like no. I just look for us to see the work. Sometimes people want to second the story. I don't want to speak. I don't see on social media the same way everybody is. I'm too much.
Okay. So, sorry, I have a follow-up question. So, from what you said, it's like practice, people said that, like intern people said that. So, I want to tell it to you. If do the designers report to the markets or the base director?
So, the guess I want is
I don't tell you.
It's a director. He's a director. He's a sitter. He's a manager. He's not a planning basically. So, everybody reports to one or lose. Now, that's what anything that's reducing around outside that connects to the identity around. Because I get that my identity with everything. It's as simple as internet. You can stress that. You can show business. You can use some culture. If when you're setting your will, you can use some points. Why saying I want my challenge. So in reality, when it comes to reporting, everything that's to do with visual identity that connects to the very brand must just so every day.
Somebody does all my services. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think I did two more questions that people would wrap. So,
Yes, quite a bit bad. Well, quite. That's it.
Right, hi everyone. I do make good my question is not really from its direction. Like them, but when I'm in the US, is that I can alright. The voice the whole of the US and perspective. So I like to know what user problem does the brand solve exactly, with their own savings. And then how do you translate this problem to your creative your visual vision?
That should be from the right.
Yeah, that's for you.
Okay. So going on. Okay. That's the first thing we did. Rank was okay. Money became rank, but we were not planning to be able to get that. And racing into we're not planning to get it. Leke is at the back. Leke was the first guy that came to my seat and with the GI, and we're just like, okay, let's do something. We're trying to build a core application. So, and when we're trying to build a core application, we actually have a contract with the bank already to deploy it. But cook it up. And with that, there's no priority to cover application, right? So, jokingly, while we're just working, it was more like one of my family friends, she got laid off and then invested in the business. Normally, I sit outside for the families, right? And I just sit down and clear. And she took it, she started a woman business. And she was doing what she was trying to do. So eventually, she went to dance out 5 other women. It's a long story.
Yeah.
So she went to tell 5 other women that Femi is an investor, talk to me. Now that I became the best Femi. Eventually, I met with them and we were like, I think business to us. And she just went. I was like, I need to use the radio. You survey like so the answer. So before you know it, they said we should test them. They will be back in 7 days, right? And myself and that was the end of like 2 million.
We were sure that we'll lose the money, right? And they took the money and we didn't charge them. They were the one that said this is what we'll pay. It was not intended. And eventually, after 7 days, all of them paid back, right? And when they paid back, it was more like they were just asking again, and we're just doing it. At that point, we were still stubborn. We were building our core banking application, and in reality, this was running on WhatsApp. One day, I just woke up, this core banking, we're spending money on it, we've not make shishi. Why can't we just focus on this, right? And from there, we took our time. We were not sure about what we're building. we took our time. We're not sure whether it was community, but we were sure that we just don't want to be another, I'm a savings platform, I'm a lending platform. No.
Yeah.
So eventually, that connects to the fact that they were in groups, they were paying back. We tested out Agile, it worked, right? From there, we just felt okay. In terms of being able to create our vision, is going to be making prosperity common. And what that means is people are more like our biggest assets. Technology has done it already by making sure we're connected to each other. But in reality, the next phase is how can you leverage on that human connection to create prosperity? And when we think about prosperity, it's not from the sense of money. It's from three pillars: wealth, health, and happiness. Because we get carried away with social media and just say, I want to blow, I want to, do you understand? So all of that connects into our value system such that when you look at the logo, the first logo was more like very coily, circular, right? But one thing that Joseph did well was the fact that when he was going to create it, he created a continuity in terms of the story, such that even the new logo is such that you're bringing people together and they're all connected to each other. And if you notice, we rarely do black in our identity. We're very human-centered. So in all of this, it connects to the vision, it connects to the identity, it connects to our mission, because our mission is very simple: to create technologies that create conditions of happiness, wealth, happiness, and health. We don't want to build people that are wealthy and they're not happy and they're not healthy. So, yeah.
All right, thanks for painting that scenario. Well, I feel like that was more related to loans, to SMEs. The feature I'm asking about in particular is the group savings. So what insights did you actually see? What user problem did you see that made you feel like, that made you say, oh, okay, let's build a group savings feature?
Okay, it's simple. While I was working with World Bank, I was earning really well. And then I went to Stanbic. And I was like, okay, can I get wealth management service, right? And the next thing is, they're not prioritizing us, right? And the other part is, we have clients, right, that are HNIs. And within 3 years, they were able to grow their portfolio by 2,400%. Can I repeat it? We have HNIs that we manage their portfolios. And average, I've seen a couple of them, that they've grown their portfolio by 2,400%. Now, when I look at this, I have a lot of young friends, right? Now, some of this HNI, there's a ceiling effect. There's a way the community has actually make it really hard for young people to be able to create wealth, right? And SEC, for instance, for you to be an HNI in Nigeria, you have to have minimum of 100 million to put aside. How many young people are able to do that? How much young people, we don't have access to credit. We don't have access to even to buy a car, to buy a house. It's really difficult, right? And when we look at that, it means that if the benchmark for us to be able to provide service to HNI is 100 million, and for them to be able to have the returns of that much, right? And to be able to provide a wealth manager for them, that means we need to find a way to make sure young people are able to do that. So that means we being young people, we have the leverage of population. You have a lot of friends, you have 20 friends. Why can't we break that 100 million into 10 places, 20 places, even 50 places? Such that the same thing HNIs are enjoying, you're able to enjoy it. And these things are simple. First is in terms of reason. The other part is the fact that you have a dedicated wealth manager that actually helps you. Because often when we see what we have currently, it's such that, yes, I'm saving. They said this stock is moving. Signal, let's do it. See, we've saved for long. We've been saving for 10 years, for years. But there's a difference between you moving from savings to wealth. They are far apart. So, and being able to provide that leverage for young people is why we came up with the concept of community and wealth. And we believe that with community, the same thing that has always been a leverage for HNIs, for the few, can be accessible to everybody. And I've enjoyed it myself. I'll give you an instance. There was a stock we worked on, and that stock did over 300% in 3 months. Those are opportunities we want to open up to you. Is it clear now?
Thank you very much, Femi. Please put your hands together for him again. Was there one more person? Okay, we can take just one. The guy with the brown hat.
Hi, my name is Abiola. Freelance brand designer. So, like you mentioned, how I knew about Rank actually was from Jordan's tweets. So I saw it at first and I was like, oh, who is this Joseph guy that's designing for a foreign brand? Like Rank looked, like the visual identity looked very, very Western, looked very, very, I was like, oh, okay, but why are these not of black people? Oh, okay, maybe it's an American, whatever. But I started like researching about it. I was like, oh, Rank is a Nigerian company. So I think I'm on the side of Afrocentric design, not like completely full to the left, but like I think growing up as a designer and taking a lot of inspiration from those Western designers, I saw like they were representing their own ideals, representing their own art styles, and some of like the best, very unique designs were people from these countries. You mentioned South American designers, you have like Italian designers, French designers that really, really represent their own culture. And then I felt like, okay, African design wasn't really represented aside like the whole jaggy fonts and patterns, if it's African patterns. We didn't really have like a unique like African identity. And so like I'm on the path of like, we need to have something that's very unique. But then I'm wondering if the reason why Rank's design is like on a global level is because Rank is seeking to scale to be like a global company, because your design is like beautiful and everything, but it doesn't really speak to like, okay, we're trying to create wealth for Nigerians or Africans. It speaks like we're trying to create wealth generally. At least that's what I personally kind of experienced from design. So I'm wondering if this is like an expression, like the brand visual is an expression of that vision to be global, or maybe what's the idea behind like not necessarily making it Afrocentric?
Okay. I mean, I have questions for you, Susha.
Same.
Like, what would you consider to be African design? Like, exactly. What are your parameters for what is African? Yeah, can we give you the mic, please?
Thanks. And I think that's kind of the problem. Like, we don't really have something that's African-centric. It's a vibe, it's a feeling. I would say Owo, for example. I think the previous Owo visuals also felt like particularly like Afrocentric, at least vibes.
But so is it mediocre work that is Afrocentric or African then?
No, it's not mediocre. It's like, again, it's a feeling. I think, okay, I'm using Owo again. The previous one made use of like very, I think, illustrations and colors of things that paired with like type. And that was like kind of the visual. And now it's switched to like a custom font that the way it moves, the way it animates, there's a feeling. Again, I'm describing the sensation of it because we don't have a clear structure for what Afrocentric design really is outside of patterns and chaos. Yeah. So I don't know, are you trying to say that like, okay, maybe the excellence of Nigerian designers, like creating designs that is that can stand on a global scale, however form it takes, becomes Afrocentric design?
Sorry, can I say something?
Yes.
I have just the right person that's going to answer this your question, and that person is coming in the next panel session. Please remember the question and help me ask, because it's the question that we've had time and time again, like what exactly is really African design? And no, Joseph is going to answer. Like I just want you to. Yeah, Solomon that I had in mind now. Yeah. You want to speak about it now? All right, please. Can you pass it to Solomon, please? Thank you. Please put your hands together for him.
Yeah. I don't think I know. So I say think many times because I don't know. It makes me feel humble. But I know that there's so much camera. I don't have to on the spot. So African design is not those patterns. If you, like a year ago, I was speaking with NMBelo, is a product designer, and I asked him the same thing, like for example, like.
Sorry, can you speak up?
I asked him about the LMs too, like what makes this a Nigerian design, because we're speaking about designing in context and all that fun stuff. Like, this tool looks very Western by lots of standard. And the response was very interesting. It says, if I made it, it's Nigerian design. I mean, I don't want to stress it too much. I can give you like proper detail as to why this is not. But I think something that stands above lots of things is, for African design, it's still a challenge that we'll be solving many years to come. And I'm not speaking just for graphic design or brand design, I'm speaking for object design, experience design. We are stuck in the place of practice, craft, the doing, but the logic is not extractable. The logic is not visible. The logic is not extractable. So it's reduced to craft. So when you see a stool that is placed in another context in, say, maybe London or New York in an exhibition, the logic is not there. Yes, I can see this. So the only way that people can access African design is, let me see the patterns, because the logic is not traveling. So look at things like Bauhaus movement, for example. This is happening somewhere in Germany. Look at Scandinavian design. It's happening so far. But we're practicing this in Nigeria, not because we're doing the exact same things. So I can do like a space that feels very African, but also with Scandinavian logic, because I understand the logic. A lot of what I think is missing with Nigerian African designers or design practice is not the doing, it's the thinking. We have hands, we have many hands, more hands are coming on, but not a lot of brains in the thing, yeah? Then the final response is Benin arts that were stolen in the British Kini. We started to value these things when they went there. How many people have gone to masquerade sites in Nigeria? How many people have traveled to Benin in Nigeria to visit those things? But now it's in a different context. We need to stop to see design from the Western eyes. Right. Yeah, and then you understand that, no, it's not Western design, this is your design. Yeah, ish. Sort of.
Yeah. Please put your hands together for Solomon. I think that's about it for now. I think, please, again, for the last time, I said last time already, please put your hands together for the rank team and for everybody, Obasha, Joseph, and Femi. Thank you so very much.
Yes. Let's with the panel.